all these patients who are critically sick, acutely ill, not only the trauma victims, but those who are sick because of respiratory distress, let's say acute exacerbation of COPD, let's say acute severe asthma, some toxin inhalation, some stroke, which are the regular emergencies at your place, they all need airway support. Those machines are standalone machines as well as they can be along with the ventilator. They also help in oxygenation as well as they help in ventilation. Why micrognathia would have this? Because there is less space in the for keeping the tongue because of the small space of size of mandible, and therefore the tongue is always.
Hello, thank you for tuning in. If you want to come back to this video later, just tap on the like button. It will save it to your liked videos so it's easier to find. And don't forget to hit on the bell icon to get notified whenever we drop new content. Stay curious, keep learning, and see you on the inside.
So thank you everyone. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful day, and especially when we are celebrating Teachers' Day today. And I'm sure all the 75 people out here would have any time in their life managed a airway which did not look good, or which looked good but did not come out to be good when they were well in the crisis of managing that airway. So we'll try to discuss all these things in a very short lecture, some 50 minutes. I'll try to cover all the wisdom I have on this, and then we can move on to understand your questions and queries and discuss them out. So I am Dr. Ashima. I work as a senior professor at Nizam Institute of Medical Sciences, Department of Emergency Medicine, and I have been very regular at Medflix previously. Did not have much time at the start of this year, so thank you so much that I joined back exactly on the day where 2 years back I got the best teacher award from Medflix. So that is a wonderful thing for me. Now the fact is that not all airways are made same. This is such this is a one statement which can tell you that how different it can be from one person to another, from one age group to another age group, from males to females, from pediatric to geriatric. Every airway is different, and that is why it is very essential to understand the management of these airways. All these patients who are critically sick, acutely ill, not only the trauma victims, but those who are sick because of respiratory distress, let's say acute exacerbation of COPD, let's say acute severe asthma, some toxin inhalation, some stroke, which are the regular emergencies at your place, they all need airway support at some point of their stay in the hospital. We have to focus on three things. First is we have to keep the airway patent, means air is going inside, air is coming outside. The tube should remain patent. We should focus on oxygenation. That means that SpO2, which is the saturation of oxygen in the arterial blood, should at least remain more than 90% on room air, and that is by far okay. We can have up to 98-99%, but if we are in a critically ill patient situation, any SpO2 above 90 or some say 95% is good enough. And then we also have to focus on ventilation. What does that mean? That not only the PaO2 is good, also the PaCO2 is good, between 35 to 45 millimeters of mercury. Now, what does that mean? It means that the oxygen carbon dioxide exchange is going on. It is not that giving the oxygen, we are focusing only on oxygen and the carbon dioxide is getting retention happens, because we all know that above 80 to 100 millimeters of mercury of PCO2, sudden cardiovascular collapse can happen. Now, what is the most fundamental skill in airway, which everyone should know? And I'm not talking of doctors, doctors, I'm also talking of everyone who works in healthcare. Okay, so that can be a nurse, that can be a paramedic, is how to do a bag wall mask ventilation. It seems very simple. It seems that, oh, if I have ambu, I can ventilate, but it is not so. And this is one skill which is life saving in emergent situations, and we all should focus on learning it. We'll go through it in next slides. So, as I was telling, patency, to maintain patency is different, but to keep the oxygenation happening, you can either use equipments without any invasion to the airway, upper airway. Okay, so that, like, you can just put an oxygen mask over the face, that is passive oxygenation. Patient is breathing himself, but at the same time he is you are adding some FiO2 additional to the room air of 21%, and therefore his saturations are improving on it. Second is, as I said, bag mask ventilation. Then there you must have seen, if in your practice or in your hospitals or your nursing homes, or whichever place you belong to, is non-invasive positive pressure ventilation, what we call as BiPAP or CPAP. Okay, those machines are standalone machines, as well as they can be along with the ventilator. They also help in oxygenation, as well as they help in ventilation, because the one which is BiPAP can also help to remove carbon dioxide as much it helps in increasing oxygen. Then we have non-invasive, which is only in the mouth around the laryngeal opening, that is supraglottic or extraglottic airways. They are also considered to be non-invasive because they are nothing, it is not going below the glottis. And we will discuss those supraglottic airways also. Then we have invasive, which you know can be endotracheal intubation. Patient can be opened up in the cricothyroid membrane, which is cricothyroidotomy, which is front of neck access, which you would need in case your patient is cannot ventilate and cannot intubate. Well, we'll discuss this out. Tracheostomies and transtracheal jet ventilations are also invasive methods of providing oxygenation. However, they require a expertise, a skill which develops as time progresses. Now, we should be able to recognize that, oh, this patient requires an airway support. So, what are those typical and atypical features, symptoms, which tell us that this is the patient which may require our support? So, it is weakness, fatigue, chest pain, shortness of breath, altered mental status, which can be anxiety, confusion, obtundation, coma, or most of the times those patients who are becoming hypoxic can become confused, whereas those patients who are becoming hypercarbic can become more obtunded and comatose. Presence of crepitations, rales or V's, and, as I said, eventually cyanosis and coma can be seen in patients who require airway support. There's a lot of times we read in our books that airway is not patent, airway needs support, patient has increased work of breathing. But what does this mean? Increased work of breathing. That is very important. It means that it is a constellation of certain symptoms, like patient can be short of breath, dyspnea, which is either a labored breathing. He's uncomfortable to breathe. He or she is uncomfortable to breathe. Tachypnea, which is a respiratory rate in adult more than 30 breaths per minute. Hyperapnea, which is not just increased rate but also increased volume. Hypoapnea, which can be the bradypnea, which is less than 8 breaths per minute, or also the breath volume, tidal volume, is very minimal. Chest rise cannot be appreciated. Use of accessory muscles. By accessory muscles, I mean sternocleidomastoid, suprasternal, intercostals, and also sternal retractions, especially when their respiratory distress is severe in children. and cyanosis, as we have already discussed. So it is a constellation of symptoms when we are talking of increased work of breathing. Now we will start doing some photographs as well as some videos to understand how this airway is getting obstructed, or how this airway is getting affected, be it its patency, be it is its oxygenation, or be it is its ventilation. Three things I have told you. So there can be an issues with upper airway, and as you can see in the slide picture on top, there are large tonsils. So this patient has large tonsils. So obviously when he is trying to take breathe, he is having this obstructive airway. Upper airway is obstructive, he will be making noise, he will be uncomfortable in lying down situation, he will be probably breathing more through mouth, keeping his mouth open. Coming to the next figure on the right side of your screen on the top, there is a big tongue. So as the patient opens his mouth, you can't see anything except for a big tongue, which is macroglossia. A lot of diseases which are where there is connect disorders are with um, like amyloidosis, and all these diseases can have macroglossia, and they can also be because of congenital causes. Mostly they will be seen in children, but the macroglossia which occurs because of anaphylaxis or angioedema can be very sudden and needs to be suspicions on in case patient becomes suddenly short of breath. If you see the figure of a man below, this is his pre-surgery and post-surgery. I hope you are able to understand that initially his mandible was micrognathic, that is pushed behind, and after a plastic maxillofacial surgery, the mandible has been pushed forward, and that is his issue of upper airway obstruction has been removed. Why micrognathia would have this? Because there is less space in the for keeping the tongue, because of the small space of size of mandible, and therefore the tongue is always obstructive. Other than that, acute infections, which is very common in emergencies, especially when they come to standalone emergency centers. They will not think that this is an emergency where they have to go to a into the hospital, and they are very common in places where the hygiene is not good, or always they are late to get diagnosed. And one of them is quinsy or peritonsillar abscess. If you can see the red inflamed tonsil on the top slide on the left of your screen, and the uvula, you can see that there is a peritonsillar abscess. Well, this has to be drained under the cover of antibiotics in emergency only, and the airway is quite dangerous here. There is no space. If you want to intubate the patient, the patient may land up in problem. So there are ways how skilled anesthesiologists take care of such airway. Coming to the left side, if you can appreciate the neuroradiology scan of a patient who had a hot potato voice, you can see that there is something called as a pretracheal abscess on that. Okay, so this is very important to understand that if you have a patient who has hoarseness of voice or hot potato voice, or acute onset of shortness of breath with voice changes, getting a scan of neck, getting apart, x-rays won't be very informative, but getting a scan of neck will help you to diagnose few situations, and one of them is retropharyngeal abscess, and other is a pretracheal abscess, and they are all surgical emergencies. The gentleman on the bottom of your screen shows a Ludwig's angina, and this is just inflammation of the submental space, and it is very difficult. His mouth opening may be perfect, and I will tell you why mouth opening is important. It may be perfect, it may be painful, but it may be perfect. But The moment the incision is given, and the pus may, because there can be the soft spot on the floor of the mouth, the pus can flood the oral cavity and patient can lose life. Therefore, such Ludwig's angina cases should always be managed in places where there is a anesthesiologist in taking care of the airway. Now, other than that, so I've told you how things can happen because of anatomical issues, infectious issues. There's something which we should always keep an eye is laryngospasm. Laryngospasm, as the word says, is sudden glottic closure. So, someone who has a simple maxillofacial injury, let's say hit in the on the face, the posterior nasal drip is blood has started flowing, and if he doesn't cough out that blood is a big irritant, and suddenly glottic spasm can happen. Same is with vomitus, same is with water. How often we have seen our family members choking on water, even ourselves, isn't it? So that is because of laryngospasm. Apart from that, sometimes when those who are anesthesiologists in this group and they do abdominal surgeries under spinal anesthesias, they understand that there are sometimes the patient suddenly has a laryngospasm as the surgeon pulls the intestine out, or a gynecol obstetrician pulls the uterus out to deliver the baby. So these are known complications of sudden vagal activity and laryngospasm. The problem is that if you leave this stimulus, it may not get corrected. It is not hard and fast that laryngospasm will be corrected if the stimulus, causative stimulus, is removed. Therefore, it is always better to look out for early medical care, or reaching to the hospital or calling 108. And otherwise, there is a maneuver which is called Larson maneuver, in which your pressure is given below the lobule of the ear, and the lower mandible is pulled forward. It is known to break the laryngospasm. The reasons have never been written in any book, but this is how people have broken the vicious cycle of laryngospasm if it is causing life threatening issue. Again, these are very interesting. This is a very interesting case, and this case is about when foreign bodies can cause airway issue. Very common in kids who are on the mother's lap, or has put a pin in the pallu, and there is she has a seizure, and this child at that point of time inhales the safety pin, and it goes and lodges in below the arytenoids, just near the glottis. And such child will have obviously shortness of breath. He will be crying inconsolably. He will have slowly and slowly, as you can see, epiglottis has started swallowing. Arytenoids will start swallowing and becoming swollen, and we will lose the airway. So such patients also, again, after a basic chest x-ray, a chest and neck x-ray, as you can see, should be managed in under anesthesia, under procedural sedation, where once the safety pin is removed, a lot of swelling will require either dexamethasone or epinephrine nebulizations to take care of it. So with this idea, over last 20 minutes, I've given you an idea why airway can be lost. Now, is my airway patent? Obviously, yes. We all say like this, that if I am able to speak, the airway is patent because it is open, it is unobstructed. But when I'm looking for my patient, I have to also check out whether he's able to swallow. That is very, very important. Airway is protected, is more important, or is as important as airway is patent. And why I'm saying so, that all of you who have worked in hospitals or taking care of patients clinical side, you understand that stroke patients with bulbar palsy, or they have a frequent aspirations. It is not that their airway is not patent, it is open, unobstructed, but their gag reflex is gone. And that is why they will have continuous micro aspirations as well as macro aspirations if they have been fed in a wrong position. So, my initial slide where I said that I have to keep the airway patent, oxygenated, ventilated, now go to three P's: patent, phonating, protected. I hope you understand the difference. That was when I was trying to tell you what are the causes of airway obstruction. Now I am trying to take you which cause, which among that, whether patency, whether phonation, whether protection, which among that is the problem in an individual patient, and you have to take care of it at that level. Okay, so always assess and anticipate challenges in airway before attempting to intervene. It is foolishness to go ahead and manage an airway if you don't know how difficult the airway is, because airway kills first. If you have given relaxant, if you have sedated the patient and you are not able to maintain the airway, then up till until you don't know the cricothyroidotomy or front of neck excess, the patient will definitely, if not die, but have hypoxic injury to the brain. So there are very simple mnemonics which have been created by our predecessors to make us easy. It is easy for us to say, oh, as this airway is difficult to bag mask ventilate, like MOANS, MOANS, which is on the left side of your screen. So bag mask ventilate, I have already told that it's the most essential skill in pre-hospital studies. If you are able to bag mask your patient, lives are saved. This has been proven in various studies. Coming to the MOANS, the seal of the mask. So I'll show you some videos. You will realize that the mask, the face mask, is it has to fit to the curvature of the nasooral airway. If it is small, if it is big, and the seal is not proper, which can be because of either a facial trauma, lot of hair, beard, can the leak can be because of edentulous, which is coming down in end, no teeth, then you will have problem. It's very simple to make the seal. You can use gauze pieces, and wherever you see that the leak is happening, you can put a little gauze on the side to hold the air mask on the face with full competence of covering the entire oral cavity and also the nose. Obesity, morbid obesity is known to cause difficult bag mass ventilation, obstructions, anything which is extra airway, outside the airway, causing obstruction, just like a big goiter, for example. A very interesting age, more than 55 years, has been recognized to be a difficult bag mask ventilation parameter. Now, why it is so? It is because of the spine. Most of the people have these spine issues, cervical spine issues, so they are not able to maintain a sniffing position. Please hold these words. Another 1 to 2 minutes, we are coming and seeing all these things. Stiff lung or chest wall is start for S. Now, why would the lungs be stiff? Those who are ARDS patients, now I'm sure you know what is ARDS, and or those who have a burn. Because of the burn, there is total the chest wall is splinted. So these are patients where will be very difficult to do bag mask ventilation. And if you are not able to do a proper bag mask ventilation, the algorithm of airway says that insert a supraglottic airway. so that even if your mask seal is not good, at least because you have opened the patency by putting in an airway, so air will go inside. But if the mouth opening is restricted, again, if the patient is obese or obstructed, if the airway is distorted because of trauma or any masses, or if there is a cervical spine restriction or stiff lungs, even airway insertion is supraglottic, non-invasive, is difficult. So now I come to you talking of all those things. So I have seen many people, what they do is they put below the patient neck, to extend the neck, they put a folded towel below the neck. It is not supposed to be put below the neck. It is supposed to be put below the occiput, because what you have to do is to bring the tragus and the sternum in one line, straight line. This is called the sniffing position. Okay, you have to put the towel, a folded bed sheet, anything below the occiput, not below the neck. Now, these are only when you have non trauma victims. Patients with suspicious of cervical spine injury, we don't do anything like this. I'm sure you understand. So, sniffing position, I will just show it like this. This tragus to this sternum should be in one line. Correct? Next. Not my aim at the time when I'm managing an airway is to keep the SpO2 of the patient above 90% at least. And if the patient is not breathing also, and I'm planning to do a intubation of this patient, still I should keep the oxygen going, that is with nasal prongs. Why? Because it is keeping a flush of oxygen in the mouth, in the upper airway, because it is getting filled and it is removing the nitrogen. Okay, so that is called as apneic oxygenation. What I'm trying to show you in by this table is that nasal cannula can be given. You all know that up to 5 liters can be given, and there is a beautiful formula on how to calculate. But what I'll say is that up to 40% FiO2 or zero point 0.4 can be given by use of nasal cannula. Simple face mask, which is always available in various places, can give up to 60% from 6 to 10 liters, whereas non-rebreathing mask will be giving up to 96 to 97%, nearly 100%. We cannot give 100% up till until patient is not intubated, because they will definitely, non-invasive management will definitely have air which will be diluting the uh, oxygen which is getting supplied to the patient. So this is what it is. It is a Gudel's airway. It is a oropharyngeal airway. Most common thing, one should know how to keep it. It will keep the base of tongue away from the hypopharynx. If you want to leave it, gag reflex should be absent. So phonate, protect. The protection with gag reflex should be not there. Then only you can put a Goodell's airway. So guys, let's see how do you manage. How it is available in various sizes. They are all color coded. So how do you know how to take the size? If you see the video, we are holding the Goodell's airway from the angle of the mouth to the angle of the mandible. And if it is, and the one which is correctly fitting from the angle of the mouth to the angle of the mandible is the size which you need in that patient. And how do you insert? If you see this, you are inserting it with the curved portion towards the upper hard palate. Okay, and then once you enter inside, 180-degree rotation is done to this back to put it back for in the same okay, sorry, I hope you have seen that, but I'll again put it for your this, that how do we measure and how we are putting in the airway at the So we have put the curved portion and then we have done a 180-degree manipulation. See, this um, simulation is done in patient who is already wearing a cervical spine um support, because it is a trauma victim. So you do not uh, try to manipulate the neck at all till you have not ruled out cervical spine. Okay. Nasopharyngeal airways are also there, which are inserted through the nose. Let me see. Obviously, it does not require a gag reflex. A gag reflex can be active, and if you can see what we do, this airway, which is 7 size for adult male and 6 size for adult female, and what you do is that you just put it towards the upper portion of the nose, not towards the mid part, not towards the lateral part, and just slide it. It has to be lubricated very well, okay? And then you slide it from the into the back of the pharynx, and you size it by keeping one end to the tip of the nose, another end to the ipsilateral ear. Okay, that is how you size it. There are books which say you can size it by angle of the mouth also, angle of the mandible. It is also perfectly fine. In adult Indian male, a size 7, and a female, a size 6 is good enough to go. So this, as I said, apart from doing Gudel's airway, nasopharyngeal airway, which we have just now discussed, we can start on this machine, which is high flow nasal oxygen machine. I'm sure few of you must have seen that. It can give up to 60 liters. As you saw with NRBM mask, I was not able to give beyond 10 to 15 liters. Correct. So this can give up to 60 liters, and it is hot, humidified, and we can start it if the saturation is low, whereas respiratory rate is high, especially acute hypoxemic respiratory failures that are pneumonias. This is obviously when it is available, it can be given. Now I will show you how to um, uh, one of the technique of airway, that how to stabilize the cervical spine. So this, if the person comes with the airway cervical spine being protected, please see how, again I will play it for you. Please see how it is protected. So the doctor or the nurse who is standing on the head end should ensure that if the whole hands up to the elbow is on the trolley or the bed. You cannot protect only with hands on the side of the neck and with your elbows above. You have to make sure that up to the elbows of yours, it should be on the same bed, same horizontally with the patient back. Okay, then only you will be able to protect the cervical spine from movement. I hope you are able to see that the thumb is anteriorly over the clavicle and rest 4 fingers are posteriorly on both sides. And the elbows are on the trolley. Sometimes for this you have to squat also. If the patient is on the floor, you have to really bend to make sure this happens if the patient is on the trolley. Correct? This is the most important skill. We are losing a lot of patients quadriplegic if we are not able to take care of the cervical spine. Okay, now we'll move ahead. Okay, so this is what I was trying to tell you about bag mask ventilation. So can you all appreciate that when this doctor or is holding a mask on the face of this simulator, she is able to make a C, alphabet C. C is with her thumb and index finger, and an alphabet E, E for English, with her 3 fingers which are below the mandible. This is called as the CE technique. With the left hand, you have to hold the mask, face mask. With the right hand, which is dominant hand, you can do positive pressure ventilation using an ambu. Again, I will say this is a CE technique of ventilation, oxygenation and ventilation, of using bag mask technique. Obviously, you cannot do all this if there is facial trauma, And if their airway is not patent, let's say that there is inside the tongue is all cut, there is all blood inside, and if you hold it like this and start giving positive pressure breath, I hope you understand that we will only push the blood in the lungs. So there are, what are the indications, contraindications are, have to be patient specific. Otherwise, this technique of CE technique is life saving in pre hospital and emergency department to oxygenate, ventilate. In case patency is just because that the tongue is falling back, you can all, and gag reflex is absent, you can take help of Gudel's airway. We have already seen it. Friends, one thing more, in case the mandible is big, your hands are small. I always had that issue. So you may need to hold the two hands, and you need to have a friend, a colleague who will do the bagging. So you will make 2C and 2E to make sure that the mask seal is good. I hope this is very simple thing which you have understood. So it is important to keep the seal appropriate and adequate. Again, this is something which you, if you are doing, I don't know how many of you are, it is a non-invasive ventilation, non-invasive positive pressure ventilation. As you can see, the mask here is more structured, it is thicker, and then it is connected to a machine which can give either a positive pressure continuously or can give positive inspiratory pressures different than expiratory pressures. This is very important nowadays. It has now been used even in ARDS victims, early ARDS, and it is used for acute heart failures. It is used for acute exacerbation of COPDs. It is used to flush out the fluid of when patients of acute kidney disease come with nephrogenic pulmonary edema. So this is a very important machine which recruits the atelected alveoli and causes a decrease in work of breathing. There is a full class which we can discuss this on, and I'm sure Netflix must be doing it. There are, as I've said, there are certain indications. There are certain disadvantages. So disadvantages that if you are trying to initiate a positive ventilation, even if you are doing it non-invasively in a patient who has already tanking blood pressures, tanking means systolic is 80, then definitely there would be an issue of hypotension. You have to take care of it. There can be pulmonary barotrauma. Patient can hyperventilate on this NIV and therefore can have respiratory alkalosis. So these are certain disadvantages which have to be looked into. My last one on this non-invasive is this whole plethora of supraglottic airways. So it was Dr. Bain, who had brought the first laryngeal mask airway, and there has been so much work done on this, that today we stand using a supraglottic airway as the primary rescue device. Primary airway device. From rescue device, it has become a primary airway device. It used to be a bridge to endotracheal intubation. It is now the primary device through which endotracheal intubation is done. So again, in emergency department, what is the use of LMA is when you have emergency care, when you are not able to intubate, you do not have an idea that how to put in an endotracheal tube. It is very common. Or you feel the airway is difficult, you will assess it now with me. Till now we have only assessed it is a difficult bag mask ventilation or it is a difficult front of neck access. But if you will assess that the airway is difficult for intubation, then you would definitely not ready to give neuromuscular blockers, because you may lose the airway. At that point of time, LMA can be life-saving. So this silicon-based LMAs used to come at 5,500. Again, need is the need of LMAs. Innovations have happened, and now a single use LMA is available at 700 rupees. Think of it. If you can keep it one with you, adult size, then it is life saving. And let us see how we can use it. So, any LMA will tell you everything about it. On the back of LMA, it will read what is the number, how much kg patient you have to give, how much air you have to put it in that air, LMA. And when you will put that LMA, LMAs take 30, 40, 50 ml of air. Okay, so you have to lube it. Lube means you have to lubricate the back side of LMA. And then after opening, you holding it in a pen shaped fashion. If you can see, that it is, you have to really put your finger inside to make sure that um, cup of LMA does not fold on itself, because if it folds on itself, it will not give you a good um, this air passage. So if you see in this model, when you are inflating, first of all, it has gone and obstructed the esophageal opening, correct? And once you will inflate it, whatever air you will give will go, if you are seeing it, it is lying just in front of the glottic opening. But yes, it can cause gagging. Therefore it is used for a short period, because it can cause discomfort in awake patients. So therefore, if you are maintaining a LMA, you have to give a little sedation. You give a midazolam, you start talking to the anesthesiologist who can come and take care of the airway, or you get prepared for doing a front of neck access. LMAs, because they came with inflation, deflation, and all. So again, innovation happened, and we got our um, already inflated LMAs, which are called as iGel. This is gel material, and the seals in the same way. It is blindly inserted. It is for pre-hospital people. That means nurse, paramedics, they can use it from central of the mouth, as we have seen in the video before. There is no need of an laryngoscope. You just inflate it. Where will it go? It will obstruct the esophageal opening, and the opening of LMA will lie in front of the glottis. So whenever someone will do an ambu, bag the patient, it is high chances that it will go into the lungs, and that you can adjust by seeing the chest rise. Again, the friends, be very careful. This can cause gagging. This can also cause glottic hematoma if we are trying to take the size. We are not very careful about the size. It comes in various sizes, right from 2 kg of child to 90 kg of an elderly can sizes available. And I'll show you something. These are not exactly uh, the iGel, but it is another innovation of iGel. We are showing you two sizes, 4.5 to 3.5. As you can see, it is inflated partially, and then further inflation will be done after it is placed. So it is done from the central of the mouth. It is done with blindly, and there is a difference. Um, you can see how it fits in. Once it is inflated, esophageal opening is closed, whereas the opening on in lies just in front of glottis. Now you can, once again, you should see this video, because these have to be learned. They are life saving. So you can see how someone is opening the mouth, pushing in the LMA, iGel, and inflating with a little amount of air. There in LMA, 30, 40 ml, 50 ml is done. Okay. So this is very important to learn. These techniques are more important. Now, last year, I do not know if there are students from DNB or MD, emergency medicine, in this, but there was we had given something called as King's laryngeal airway. And King's laryngeal airway is Again, if you see, pulling the same thing, pulling it this, putting a little laryngoscope to, as this way, where will this laryngeal, it is called laryngeal, but it will go and into the esophagus. So you see, if you put it blindly, it if you put it blindly, it will enter the esophagus. And once it enters the esophagus, it has two bulbs. If you inflate the bulb, of which the distal one, which takes 5 ml or 10 ml, and then the proximal one, then in between the two bulbs, there will be fenestrations through which patient can be ventilated. It's a little tricky. If you don't see it, you will not be able to understand. But please see these fenestrations. One is going into the esophagus, and this one, the one which is shown now, is on the in the posterior oropharynx. And all these small holes is what is passing the air into the glottis. Blindly, if you will put an endotracheal tube, it will definitely go in the esophagus. So a King's laryngeal airway is no different. So it will also go into the esophagus, but those fenestrations will help to ventilate. I hope I have made you understand this. And then, as I said, LMAs have become so modified that now we are doing intubations and full surgeries. So my learning was not more than 30 minutes. My learning was that no, not for patients who will have laparoscopic abdominal surgeries. No way that you should give pressure so that aspiration is more chances, has more chances of aspiration. But now things have changed. LMA has innovated further, and therefore LMAs are used for short duration of surgeries. I've gone through the literature. At least for 1 to 2 hours surgery, it is also possible. What LMAs help you in emergency apart from being your conduit? Because if you are not able to hold the mask, or you are worried that you have less number of hands, you cannot have a mask seal, okay, go ahead and do, is also cardiac arrest. So in cardiac arrest victims who are come to you with unwitnessed cardiac arrest, if you are less number of hands, or if there's a space, this, you can just pass it an LMA. Because if you are trying to intubate this victim, you will definitely, it is well known that there will be some pauses in chest compressions, whereas if you are putting a supraglottic airway, LMA, this is not possible. And therefore LMAs are very important in case you are managing a cardiac arrest victim in your emergencies. You should have an LMA for taking care of the airway issues in sudden cardiac arrest victims. Well, we come to the invasive part, which is the cornerstone of emergency airway management. Preparation is the key, and let me show you what all can help. So see this gentleman on the left side. He's bending over to do an laryngoscopy. His view will be so difficult. It will be so difficult for him. So it is always advised that the height of the trolley should be at the xiphoid of the operator, of the intubator. Then you will have a good view. That is called as Comac-Lehans view. Otherwise, you will have problem. One, back problem of yours, otherwise, and obviously airway would not be good. These are different laryngoscope blades. On the top, you have the regular Macintosh. On the right top, you have the Miller blade. And you can see how the Macintosh is made. It is made as the curvature of a tongue would be. So it will go beyond the tongue into the vallecula. Vallecula was, we have seen those videos of standalone glottis, and just ahead of epiglottis, when you do not lift the epiglottis, between the base of tongue and epiglottis, that area is called vallecula. Whereas Miller blade lifts the epiglottis for a clearer view of glottis, that is larynx. At the same time, below, we can see a video laryngoscope, glide scope also kept. So let me let me discuss with you about this. Can you see how, first of all, see how in tracheal intubation he is maintaining a sniffing position. Now, this sniffing position not for cervical spine. Then with the Caesar activity means your thumb is pushing the lower jaw below and the index finger is pushing the upper jaw. See, this is simulated thing. Okay, so here you can see a little extra pressure on the upper teeth. You should not have give pressure on the upper teeth. If there is a tooth break occurs during laryngoscopy, it is considered to be grievous injury. The operator will introduce the laryngoscope from the right corner of the, holding the laryngoscope blade in the left hand from the right corner of the mouth, and shift the entire tongue on the left side. And as once the glottis, and you can see the vallecula, he has kept the blade, tip of the blade, and as the glottis was visible, the tube on which, under in which bougie is also there. If you can clearly see, there is a blue colored bougie which is there inside the endotracheal tube, and he has pushed in the tube through the glottis. So the points to be noted in this video was optimal height, optimal laryngoscopy from the right corner of the mouth, pushing the tongue onto the left side. Okay, now where these normal ones are not worrisome to you. What is worrisome to you is when there's a lot of blood inside, lot of secretions inside. Patient is like, it is a mess. Airway is a mess. So what we have tried to simulate that by putting a lot of colored fluid into this. Please keep on seeing. So consider this green fluid which is there as blood or lot of secretions which are messing up the airway. Okay, so we'll see the video laryngoscope is used so that we can record this. You see how we hold the yonkers. It's just like as if you are trying to stab a person. In a normal person you will hold it in a pen holding, but in a patient who is already filling, you have to use as if so tightly so that you can suck out everything which is there, and at the same time keep on sucking and introduce your laryngoscope. Once the laryngoscope is introduced, now you can understand that where would I introduce the tube. Place the right corner where I was supposed to introduce the tube. Already this catheter is there, so what should I do? So we have to do a maneuver wherein we have to push the catheter on the other side, and you will see how we do it. So we will push it from this side, and we will push it to the left side. That is what we are trying to do now, after doing as much suction as possible. And then we will push it in the esophagus also. See, the blood is always coming out. Okay, it is filling, it is making your visualization bad. So you go from this side, but don't go directly. First you have to do it from that side. Leave it over there. Now it will keep on sucking, and then you can push in your tube which is loaded on again a bougie, and after you inflate it, then you can take out the suction catheter. This is called as SALAD technique. SALAD means selective airway decontamination. This is very important technique. All throughout this, I have not been able to tell you till now that how do you assess. See, for us in emergency, every airway is difficult because we see the patient for the first time. Majority of our airways, if not anatomically difficult because of trauma, are physiologically difficult because of shortness of breath, hypotension, head injury, stroke victims. Therefore, these Mallampati scores really do not work, but yes, we should know. So you cannot do Mallampati score or modified Mallampati score in a lying down patient. The patient should sit in front of you at the same height level. Let's say you are sitting on a chair, The patient is also sitting on a chair, and you ask him to open mouth and protrude tongue. And friends, what pictures I have put it are the ones which you can see, and accordingly say that whether it is a class 1 or class 2 Mallampatti, which will be easier to intubate, or a class 3 or class 4, which will definitely be difficult to intubate, and you have to plan for issues. I'll take another 5 or 10 minutes maximum. Is that okay? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay. So there is something called as lemon. Lemon is a criteria which will say difficult laryngoscopy. It L stands for look. So looking is your clinical gestalt. You should know. Does it look? It will be difficult. It's a micrognathia. It is a macroglossia. There is a big goiter in front. There is quinsy happening. When the look itself is saying, obviously it will be difficult. Then the E is 332, which I will tell. M is Mallampatti, which is modified because in emergency you may not have a patient which is opening his mouth and protruding his tongue. So you might use a laryngoscope blade and just press the tongue below. And if you are able to see whatever 1, 2, 3, 4, that you will document. That is modification. Using a tongue blade yourself to to see the position of epiglottis, glottis, posterior pharyngeal wall, and base of tongue. O is always obesity and obstruction, and N is always neck mobility. So let me show you what we discussed very recently in our rounds also. 332. Three fingers mouth opening, three fingers in horizontally, three fingers horizontally between the mentum and the hyoid bone. Three fingers horizontally between the mentum and hyoid bone, which means that you are trying to assess assess the submental space. And the submental space means you are trying to assess how much space where you can push your tongue. So that space is assessed by this hyomental distance, and then from the hyoid to the thyroid, these are vertically oriented two fingers. So this is very important. It is asked everywhere. How do you assess? And it can be done. You can do 332 in patients in your emergency. If you are worried about your fingers being bitten by an anxious, agitated patient, you can just take care of it by assessing his other the second 3-2 part, or his own fingers also. People have done that. So if you are doing a laryngoscopy, and if you see the left upper part where you have done a laryngoscopy, and if you can see there is something called as grade 3 view only, then just putting a folded towel below it will improve your laryngoscopy. Not only there, I'm again coming back from my initial slides, even for putting your LMA, folded towel below the occiput, not below the shoulders, not below the neck. Never a normal saline bottle. These are wrong techniques. We should not do it. Okay. What was I trying to see inside is Comic-Lehans. Please first focus on the left side of your screen. The number 1 where glottis is just seen. It's looking so beautiful in front of you. In number 2, you can see the epiglottis. And if you just push a little, do external laryngeal manipulation, hold the thyroid from above, push it from above, you will be able to see the glottis, because the posterior chunk of glottis you can see below that epiglottis. Number 3 is where you can see the epiglottis, but not even the posterior chunk is seen. And number 4 is when you cannot see the epiglottis at all. Now, recently, this is a recent advancement, and why I want to bring to your notice is exam going students, if they are there, that recently grade 2 is divided into 2A and 2B. 2A says that you are not able to see the complete glottis like grade 1, but you are seeing most of it. Whereas 2B says only the posterior part of it. So if you remember these picture, you will be able to know it, remember it. So grade 2 has been divided into 2A and 2B in Comic-Lehans, which is a recent advancement. burp maneuver, bimanual laryngoscopy. We have discussed apneic oxygenation. We have talked about not to force a tube down the glottis. It can cause eversion of arytenoid cartilage. You have to be very gentle, and it should be over within 30 seconds. Okay. There's a lot of old timers may ask you about Sellick's maneuver, which is, as you can see, pressure which is given over the cricoid cartilage, and it says that we will, if we cricoid is the only round cartilage, rest all are not complete round, they are incomplete C, so it is only a complete O, and therefore if you push it on it down, then you will have aspiration will not happen, because you will be able to give pressure on the upper esophagus. However, no longer now it is supposed to be accepted. And so Sellick maneuver is more of a historical interest rather than clinical implication. And you can see that those who are obese can be put up in ramped position. Ramp is like a ramp. It has no further addition. But still, the ear and tragus and the sternum should be in straight line, which I had also mentioned you in my slide 3 or 4. Rapid sequence intubation is RSI, which every one of us wants to do, the fast sequential administration of drugs, so that no physiological perturbations happen. And mostly we use etomidate and propofol for induction agents, and succinylcholine and rocuronium for neuromuscular blockers. Friends, remember, you never do RSI. These two tables, you can come back on this and check what are the plus points and not so plus points of each agent. But please do understand that RSI you don't do if the airway is difficult. If airway is difficult, RSI is not done. It should be anticipated difficult. It has to be then drug assisted delayed sequence intubation or drug assisted intubation. If you anticipate that the airway is difficult, then RSI is not done. Now this you can have a lot of confusions on it. Please read back and understand why I am saying so. Okay, as I said, we have to know front of neck excess. So this is a cadaver. So when you are doing on a cadaver and trying to locate the cricothyroid membrane, he will not bleed. But for you, if you are trying to do it, you can always use epinephrine, diluted epinephrine. We are trying to use a 10 blade, and with the help of it, we can put in after doing on crick. After putting nick on the cricothyroid membrane, we have used a size 6 endotracheal tube, which has been loaded on a bougie and has been passed. It is 3-minute procedure. It should be done as early as possible. Everyone should again learn it. And we do a lot of cricks in our emergency department. And even National Medical Commission says that these are essential skills for doctors who are working in emergency. Again, as I said, these two are important. What is important when you are intubating are 7 P's. They can be asked in exams. They are very important for your day-to-day understanding. You have to be very prepared. We have discussed how to be prepared. You have to pre-oxygenate. You can have patients who are very low in blood pressures. You can start an IV line, give a fluid bolus, keep on giving push-dose vasopressors. If the patient is already decompensated, he is physiologically difficult airway, you have to do an induction agent and paralytic agent. Another P is positioning with the occiput, folded towel below the occiput. And after placement of laryngoscopy and tube, post intubation management is very important. Many of us lose our patients after intubation in emergency department and not before, because we forget to provide lung protective ventilation, continue our hemodynamic management, ensure that patient does not wake up and becomes agitated and pulls out the tube. And also there can be over a period of time ventilator associated pneumonias. Heaven's criteria is another new association advancement which can describe a physiologically difficult airway. As I said, it can be also medical cases which can be difficult, and we are not only focused on trauma and surgically difficult airways. Specific situations, if the patient is head injured, you have to prevent hypoxia, hypercapnia, and not overventilate the patient. That is one thing which many of us still are not able to control. The moment the ambu bag comes in our hand, we think that by giving fast breaths we will be able to save the patient. It is not. Breaths have to be given 10 to 12 breaths per minute. Yes, if the patient is coning, a head injured patient, then you can do hyperventilation for a short period of 30 minutes. Apart from that, you should not do it. You should do for adult patient 10 to 12 breaths per minute, or for pediatric 12 to 20 breaths per minute. Chest trauma victim, we have to understand that if there is a very small pneumothorax which has escaped our primary survey, the moment the patient can intubate, gets intubated for any other reason, let's say because of head injury, it can become a tension pneumothorax, and we should know the criteria which is called as DOPE, in which we try to check out for the presence of pneumothorax using an ultrasound machine. And those who do not know how to use ultrasound can only always auscultate and look out for sudden hypotension which happens just after intubation. High chances that the patient has developed tension pneumothorax, and we should do a needle thoracostomy. Child has different needs because the airway is different. It is a little busy slide. We do not have time, so I have left out few formulas for you. Please check it out. I'm sure this will be available on the Medflix site. We end up by saying that if your patient airway management of the patient, first thing is to try for 100% oxygen and do a bag mask ventilation. Learn the skill of bag mask. If the patient is in cardiac arrest or near arrest, then you do not do RSI. For our RSI is not done. You have to first take care of cardiac arrest as per ACLS guidelines. If the oral route is impossible because of some mass or some trauma, then you should look out for front of neck excess. If there is any other distortion, disproportion like macrognathia, dysmobility like where cervical spine collar with in head injury or upper cervical injury, or edentulous, or teeth being big teeth, especially the incisors, then you have to think of alternative devices like video laryngoscopes, and protecting the teeth with the help of gauze. RSI comes only when your airway is not difficult, and that we have already agreed. Same thing I'm telling last line, that if, friends, you failed once, there were times when we were allowed 3 times intubation before we call for help. Then the guidelines said 2 times you can check and then call for help. Today we stand that if one time we fail to intubate the patient, call for help, because airway will kill as early as possible. They say that at the start, choose the best device, and therefore all emergency departments should have a video laryngoscope which should be functional. All emergency trays should have a bougie, because there are trials which is called as bougie trial, and other trials which have shown that use of video laryngoscope and bougie improves the first pass success of intubation to 98%. I wish you all again a very happy Teachers' Day, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your insightful presentation. We have a few questions that have come in during the presentation.
Yes, please.
So I'll take a few of them. Dr. Mansur Shah is asking cricoid puncture needle advice.
Cricoid. One second.
Yes.
Cricoid puncture
Needle.
Okay, so We can use the needle of what we are using for putting a central line in emergency. Yeah, that is needle cricothyrotomy. So needle cricothyrotomy has to be converted into surgical cricothyrotomy only below the 8 years of age, or some books refer to below 12 years of age. We do a needle cricothyrotomy. Otherwise, we can do a surgical crick, which is easier. You can just have to stab, and as I've shown, you can push in your bougie and also railroad a 6 size endotracheal tube. So we have Cooks. There is a company called as Cook. The company brings you a crick set. It is about 10,000 rupees, but then it is not as costly as the life of a patient. So.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Batul Bora has asked a question. After two failed laryngoscopies with falling SpO2, what is the structured algorithm for rescue ventilation, and when do you declare it as CICO?
Okay. So first of all, sir, thank you for so much. I was purposefully not trying to push myself into it, because in emergency everything is difficult. But as you have said that there are two failed, as I said towards the end, that even one failed, I'll call for help. And we have seen and we have discussed this in the start of our webinar, that I would use a LMA, laryngeal mask airway, as early as possible. I will bag mask my patient back to at least pre-induction SpO2 before taking the second chance. How do I declare a CICO, cannot intubate, cannot oxygenate? Is uh, obviously when I'm not able to bring back the patient back to the SpO2 where he was before induction was started. Number two, I'm not able to, even with my second attempt and with a better um, uh, um, instrument, with a senior colleague or a colleague who is more into airway management, I'm not able to intubate. I would say that it is CICO. We at emergency, sir, do a crick after second failure, and we do it very early, because we don't have that much um, time, or we cannot manipulate the neck so much. Our patients are always physiologically or anatomically airway difficult airways. So crick is our life-saving thing. Thank you, sir.
Another question by Dr. Batul is, how do you modify airway management in a patient with massive upper GI bleed or vomitus in the
Yeah,
OR?
so we talked about that salad technique. I tried to show a video also where we have used our Yonkor suction continuously, and while we are intubating. Okay, if you are trying to ask me that we'll keep the head down position, evidence does not support that putting the position head down or head up will make the patient having less aspiration. The only is that continuous suctioning while putting in the tube. Do not do positive pressure ventilation. This also we discussed, that if you are holding a mask and there is all secretions inside, you will not do positive pressure mask. But if you are wanting to you have to secure an airway in a patient who has lot of blood in the mouth, then it is SALAD technique, SALAD, airway decontamination with selective airway decontamination.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, there are a few questions, but they are beyond the scope of today's topic, so I will.
Thank you so much.
Here,
Thank you so much. And
here there is one question by Dr. Ravindra Kulkarni, is a few words about videoscopic laryngoscopy.
okay,
Video
so
laryngoscopy.
thank you, sir. This is very important, because nowadays not only CMAC and all these companies which are costlier companies, we have cheaper varieties also available. Rather, in COVID times, we had one single use video laryngoscopes also, and there is a lot of innovation which has gone into it. So video laryngoscopes has two prisms. Okay, so they are at 90-degree to each other. So what we see at the tip, the of in front of the laryngoscope, is we can see on the because of that same submarine technique. If you can understand submarine, when the ship goes below the water, the submarine still they can see what is coming in front of them. Same way, we can see on our monitor which what is happening inside. So it is helpful for the person who is guiding to know what is the difficulty the operator is having. Now, there is a little tricky intubation when you are using a video laryngoscope. It is not introduced from the right corner of the mouth like a normal laryngoscope. It is introduced from the center of the mouth, because here you don't need to push the tongue here and there, because it is your eyes have to follow what is seen on the video monitor, rather than you are not trying to look inside the mouth of the patient. So there is a little eye video contact one has to develop, but it does not have a very long learning curve. It has a very short learning curve, but yes, it is introduced from the center of the mouth. You have to keep on seeing on the video monitor and accordingly intubate. And you always have help, because other people can also see her with you, and they can guide you at the same time.
I'll take one last question, ma'am, here. If a patient undergoes surgical thyroidectomy and later develops persistent hoarseness of voice, what is the most likely cause?
Now, Dr. Shubham knows it. What is the most likely cause of it? You have taken care of the recurrent laryngeal nerve along with it. So let us not bother about the complications when we are trying to save a life. There has been no procedure in this medical history which does not have a complication. Otherwise, our books would be half the size what we are having, isn't it, Dr. Shubham? So yes, there is always a possibility of you having an issue with the injuries with the invasive procedures, but then this is life and death issue. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. And because of short of time right now, I will
Yeah,
not take
thank you.
any more questions. But a lot of people have wished you, ma'am, in the comments,
Thank
a
you.
very happy Teachers' Day.
Thank
And
you so much.
we
To
have
all of
received
them, thank you so much.
we've
And I'm
received
also
very
very happy to
appreciative
come back
comments.
on Netflix, and especially I'm very thankful to you, because I wanted to do something more, but you said no. We should start with airway, and thank you, because airway is somewhere where we get very touchy. See, it's very different, friends, when you are doing it in operation theater in a controlled environment versus when you are doing it in a emergency room. So many algorithms which we all have read. I have also read the DAS algorithms, the algorithms which Indian society has given. Rather, I've worked in those algorithms, but it cannot be applied here. Things are that the moment you see that you have failed, you go in front of neck access, because we are either you use an LMA if the LMA is possible, otherwise you go for FFONA, which is front of neck access, which is CRIC for us. So
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Goodbye. Good night, and thank you so much once again.